Welcome to Psychodepthh. I'm Mark Klatt, and on this channel, we explore the hidden side of human psychology, relationships, and behavior that most people never talk about. In today's video, we're going to uncover the reality of marriage and what many men realize only after commitment. So stay with me till the end, because this might change the way you see relationships. Marriage is often presented to men as the ultimate milestone of life. From a young age, many are taught that success is incomplete without marriage, as if it is the final destination of happiness, stability, and emotional fulfillment. But what is rarely discussed is the reality that exists behind this ideal image. The truth is, marriage is not just a romantic commitment. It is a life-changing system that deeply affects a man's freedom, mindset, responsibilities, and identity. Many men enter marriage with expectations shaped by society, family pressure, or emotional excitement. They believe that love will solve everything, and that life will naturally become better after marriage. However, what most realize, often too late, is that marriage brings a completely different set of challenges that were never properly explained to them beforehand. Responsibilities increase, personal freedom decreases, and expectations from both sides become more complex than anticipated. One of the biggest hidden realities is that many men only understand the depth of marriage after they are already committed. Before marriage, conversations are often focused on emotions, dreams, and future hopes. But after marriage, practical realities such as financial pressure, family responsibilities, emotional compatibility, and lifestyle adjustments begin to surface. At this stage, some men feel overwhelmed because they were never mentally prepared for this transition. Another important aspect is that a growing number of men silently experience regret or dissatisfaction after marriage. This does not always mean they dislike their partner, but rather that they struggle with the drastic change in their personal life. However, due to societal expectations, they rarely express these feelings openly. In many cultures, a man is expected to remain strong, responsible, and silent, even when he is emotionally struggling inside. The most important truth is that marriage itself is not necessarily the problem. The real issue is the lack of awareness and honest discussion before entering it. Men are often not fully informed about the emotional, financial, and psychological changes that come with long-term commitment. This gap between expectation and reality is what leads to confusion and disappointment in many cases. At the same time, it is also important to understand that marriage is not the same for everyone. For some, it becomes a source of stability and growth. For others, it can feel restrictive depending on circumstances, communication, and mutual understanding. The outcome depends largely on preparation, awareness, and emotional maturity from both sides. In the end, the goal is not to fear marriage, but to understand it realistically before making life-changing decisions. Awareness is the key factor that can prevent regret and help individuals make better choices. If you found this perspective valuable, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear the truth about relationships and marriage. Many men only begin to understand the deeper realities of marriage after they have already committed to it, often when they say, "I do." Before marriage, the experience is usually shaped by emotions, attraction, and optimism about the future. Everything feels simple at that stage. Conversations are focused on love, companionship, and building a life together. The challenges that may come later are rarely discussed in depth, or they are easily overlooked because emotions tend to dominate decision-making. However, after marriage begins, reality gradually replaces expectation. Responsibilities that once seemed distant suddenly become part of daily life. Financial pressures, family obligations, and lifestyle adjustments start to demand attention. Many men find that their time, energy, and personal freedom are no longer fully their own. What once felt like an independent life begins to shift into a shared system where decisions must consider another person's needs, emotions, and expectations on a constant basis. This shift is not necessarily negative in every case, but it is often more intense than many men anticipate. The gap between expectation and reality becomes noticeable when small disagreements turn into repeated patterns, or when communication challenges begin to surface. Issues that seemed minor before marriage can feel much larger afterward, because the emotional and practical stakes are higher. Another important realization many men experience is how different daily life becomes compared to what they imagined. Time for personal interests, friendships, or solitude may reduce significantly. Instead, there is a stronger focus on responsibilities, coordination, and compromise. Some men adapt to this change smoothly, while others struggle because they were not mentally prepared for such a transformation in lifestyle. In some cases, men also realize that emotional expectations within marriage are more complex than they expected. Marriage is not only about love, but also about emotional support, patience, understanding, and constant communication. When these expectations are not fully understood beforehand, misunderstandings can develop over time. This is where many men start to feel overwhelmed as they try to balance personal identity with the demands of the relationship. The phrase, "too late to reverse decisions," does not always mean regret in a literal sense, but rather a recognition that marriage is a long-term commitment with real consequences. Once entered, it cannot simply be undone without emotional, social, and sometimes financial impact. This reality makes the post-marriage realization even more powerful, because it comes after the commitment has already been made. Ultimately, this experience highlights the importance of awareness before marriage. Many of the challenges men face are not unexpected in nature. They are just not fully understood in advance. With better understanding, communication, and realistic expectations, the transition into married life can become more balanced and less overwhelming. There's a hidden side of marriage that most people never properly explain to men before they make a lifelong commitment. From the outside, marriage is often shown as a simple idea: love, companionship, and emotional security. But the real experience goes much deeper than that, and many of these realities only become clear after commitment has already been made. One of the main hidden aspects is the shift in personal freedom. Before marriage, a man has full control over his time, decisions, and lifestyle. After marriage, that freedom naturally becomes shared. Every decision, whether big or small, starts to involve responsibility toward another person, and sometimes even extended family. This adjustment can feel heavier than expected for those who were never mentally prepared for it. Another hidden factor is the emotional responsibility that comes with marriage. It is not just about receiving love, but also constantly giving emotional support, understanding moods, managing conflicts, and maintaining balance in the relationship. Many men underestimate how much emotional energy this requires on a daily basis. There is also a practical side that is often not discussed openly. Financial planning, household responsibilities, and long-term stability become constant concerns. These are not occasional issues. They become part of everyday life, and they require patience, discipline, and cooperation. Most importantly, many of these realities are not clearly explained before marriage. Society often focuses on the positive side, while the more complex parts are either ignored or simplified. As a result, some men only discover these truths after they are already deeply committed, when adjusting becomes more challenging. Understanding this hidden side does not mean marriage is negative. It simply means that awareness is crucial before making such a life-changing decision. A growing number of men silently feel regret after marriage, but they rarely express it due to strong social pressure and expectations placed on them. This is not always a dramatic or obvious regret, but more often a quiet, internal feeling that develops over time when reality does not fully match expectations. Before marriage, many men build an ideal picture in their minds. They expect emotional peace, stability, understanding, and a supportive partnership. These expectations are often shaped by movies, social media, family advice, and cultural narratives that highlight the positive side of marriage. However, what is not equally discussed is the adjustment phase that comes after marriage, the phase where two individuals with different habits, emotions, and expectations try to share a single life. When daily responsibilities begin to increase, some men start feeling overwhelmed. Financial pressure, family duties, and constant decision-making can create mental strain. At the same time, personal freedom often reduces. Simple things like spending time alone, meeting friends freely, or making spontaneous decisions may now require coordination and compromise. Over time, this change can create a feeling of loss of individuality. However, what makes the situation more complex is that most men do not openly talk about these feelings. Society often expects men to be strong, responsible, and emotionally controlled. From a young age, many are taught that expressing dissatisfaction, especially about marriage, can be seen as weakness or failure. Because of this, even when some men feel disappointed or emotionally exhausted, they keep it inside. This silence creates an internal conflict. On one side, they feel pressure to fulfill responsibilities and maintain a stable image for their family and society. On the other side, they struggle privately with emotions they cannot easily express. Over time, this unspoken tension can turn into a quiet form of regret. Not necessarily regret about the partner, but about the experience, expectations, and lack of preparation. Another important factor is communication. In many cases, men do not feel comfortable sharing their emotional struggles within the relationship. Either they fear misunderstanding, or they believe their concerns will not be taken seriously. This lack of open communication can make the emotional distance grow even more. It is also important to understand that this feeling does not apply to every man or every marriage. Many relationships are healthy, balanced, and fulfilling. However, the silent group that struggles often remains invisible because they do not speak publicly about their experiences. Ultimately, the silence around male emotional struggles in marriage creates a hidden layer of reality that is rarely acknowledged. The regret is not always about marriage itself, but about unmet expectations, lack of preparation, and the pressure to stay silent even when emotions become difficult to manage. The biggest issue is not marriage itself, but the lack of awareness about what truly changes after it. Many men enter marriage with expectations shaped by emotion, culture, and social pressure, but very little real understanding of how life actually transforms once commitment begins. Before marriage, everything is usually seen through a positive lens. Love, companionship, and emotional connection feel like the most important factors. However, what is often missing is a realistic discussion about the practical and emotional changes that follow. After marriage, life is no longer just about personal choices. It becomes about shared decisions, shared responsibilities, and constant adjustment. One major change is in personal freedom. Time, habits, and lifestyle choices naturally become more structured. A man's daily routine is no longer fully independent because it now involves coordination with a partner and sometimes extended family. This shift can feel small at first, but over time it becomes more noticeable. Another important change is emotional responsibility. Marriage is not only about receiving support, but also about providing it consistently. Understanding emotions, handling disagreements, and maintaining balance require patience and maturity. Many men are not fully prepared for this level of emotional involvement, which can create stress or confusion later. Financial and family responsibilities also increase after marriage. These are not occasional pressures, but ongoing realities that require planning and stability. Without proper awareness, this transition can feel overwhelming. The core issue is not that marriage is negative, but that expectations and reality are often not aligned. When men are not fully informed about what changes after marriage, the gap between expectation and experience creates dissatisfaction or internal struggle. If you want more honest and deep insights like this about relationships and human behavior, make sure to subscribe and stay connected to the channel. This content is for educational and informational discussion purposes only. It is not intended to generalize all marriages or discourage commitment, but to promote awareness and understanding.